Hello, welcome to the 2025 TLC presentation, Burn Bright, Not Out, a budget-neutral burnout toolkit for early childhood educators. My name is Dr. Stephanie Heald, and I'm honored to serve as the department head for early childhood programs in the College of Professional Advancement. I have been in online education for over 15 years. Along the way, I've found my why, my strengths, my passions, some great successes, but also some challenges to overcome that I want to highlight here with you today with some time, energy, and wellness savers to save you some time. As early childhood educators, we know the incredible joy that comes from working with the little ones. Their faces when we get to go see them in the classrooms, the excitement they have when we share these learning experiences, their curiosity, their constant energy that lights up our day. But at the same time, the work is both emotionally and physically draining and demanding. Over time, that constant output from us can take a toll. Sometimes appearing is exhaustion, chronic fatigue, irritability, feeling less creative, a block wall sometimes. I just can't get past it, and a decline in overall satisfaction or happiness, contentment with my work. Burnout is not something we can fix in a single weekend. It's not solved by the bubble bath. It's not solved by a day off. It's not solved by a good shopping trip. Instead, it really does require ongoing habits and systems that are put in place that support us in the long haul. This toolkit today in our session together today is really going to focus on budget neutral tools and strategies that you can put into place to ease some of the demand that early childhood educators face. The goal is for us to sustain our energy so that we can keep showing the passion and we can keep keeping up with their energy and the joy that our children deserve. When it comes to mastering our minutes or time management, we tend to want to squeeze more into our day. What we need to do is we need to work smarter so that we can protect our energy. So let's talk about how to really master our minutes. Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to plan with purpose. And to plan with purpose, what a great starting point or strategy is to identify three non-negotiables, those things that you just need to get done. If everything else in the day goes sideways, you're going to end up knowing those three things are your priorities that you're going to stay committed to. Those essentials are what you are going to get done. The next thing we can do is batch the basics. Put things together, right? The priorities. So instead of grading a paper here and a paper there, we want to chunk a block of time, set a block of time, and batch those gradings together, or batch those lesson plans together, or batch those emails together. We don't want to go between email and grading because then we get very sidetracked. And to be honest, we're not good multitaskers. We need to go back to actually taking our focus blocks and putting our time and energy where we need to be. You'll be surprised at how much faster you can work when your brain is not switching gears all day. Another great strategy is to code or color code your calendar. Use one color for teaching, another color for planning, another one for meetings. And here's the most important color, one for you. I call mine my wellness time, and I do try to make sure that pink time on my calendar gets in. Whether it's a walk, whether it's a workout session, whether it's just time to read a professional book or a personal book that I wanted to read. That time is very essential for ensuring that I'm in a great space mentally and emotionally so that I can continue to do the hard, great work that I do. But I have to have that time to really focus on me. And when you plan it and you make that a non-negotiable and a priority, it really does show that you value you, which is something we all should do. So the other thing it does is the color coding allows you to see if there's a balance. If you're noticing there's a whole lot of green on your schedule, and there's, green is those focus tasks that take a lot of time and a lot of energy, you might want to think about building in buffer zones. Buffer zones are pauses. They are breaks in our hard work that allow us to come back to that stable state, come back to that balance point. So we're not running on fumes and we are feeling in control because we have that space to have a little bit of a buffer, our downtime. Not to say you're not going to do something during that time, but it just gives you a chance to have a short break before we're going into something else, or a short break when we have that hard focus work. Setting boundaries. I continue to work on this one. We have to ensure that we are setting boundaries and we're sticking to them. Two different strategies right there. When we set the boundaries, we might say something like, today I'm going to end my day, or I'm going to leave school or leave the classroom at 4 o'clock. And when 4 o'clock hits, even if we're not done with what needed to be done, we need to pause and we need to actually honor that. Protecting that time is actually an act of wellness. Not to say you might stay late and have a little bit of flexibility another day, but what we don't want to do is make a very common practice of it. Because when we make that common practice, we are fostering the burnout that we don't want. So maybe once a month we have that little bit of a wiggle room. But for the most part, we need to make sure that we are really honoring the boundaries that we set. Reflect and reset. So here's the thing. When we look back, we can say, I felt really good in that moment because of. I felt really kind of yucky in that moment because of. And this allows us to really kind of see what's working and what's not working. And having that space to reflect on this allows us to know what to keep doing and what to relook at to refine, right? Because when we live in that space of discomfort or uncomfortability, or when we live in that space of chaos, and we'll talk about that, we're not able to fully function because we're unstable. We're in a chaotic sense. So, what we want to do is create that safe space, that stable space where we can actually thrive. And that's going to be through our reflection and our reset when needed. So, we're going to talk a lot about tools and leveraging tools. This is a toolkit presentation. So, we're going to talk a lot about this, but one of the most effective time management tools and strategies we can use are some sort of calendaring system that lets us look at our minutes and become the master of them. Chaos. So sometimes our days are so chaotic. It feels like we have all sorts of things going on. We have lesson planning, we have those moments that come up, those teachable moments that we go with. We have everything in between, transitions, those unexpected things, those expected things, those places that go off the beaten path that we had originally planned. When our days feel chaotic, clarity often comes from just simple intentional systems. So, what we want to do is first simplify our systems. So, I used to be a big post-it note girl. I used to leave them all over. And what I found is that in itself was chaotic to me because they were all over. And then I might leave one here and it needed to be over here to be the reminder. And it just wasn't a good system. It was a confusing system to say the least. Reminders on the phone, papers all over. We have to find one central hub. And for me, what has worked for me is my computer. You never see me without my computer. And it truly is something that I take with me. It has my passwords. It has everything that I need in one space. Can connect to the Wi-Fi. I have reports on there, children documents on there. I have everything on there. Again, it's that safe, secure spot that helps me have one single place for all of the clutter, for all of everything that I might need. With this, I have to remember that routine is rescue. So we have our safe space with our simple system. We have our filing cabinet of everything that we need. We need to get a routine in there. Consistent daily and weekly routines allow us to cut down on fatigue. Why? Because we know it's coming. We don't have to anticipate. We don't have to always be ready to run, ready to walk, whatever it is. We're very aware of what is coming next. Therefore, It reduces our decisions. We know we're going to whatever it might be. We are aware that this is happening. So when that happens, we actually reduce our mental conditioning to focus on decision-making choices, whatever it might be. When those certain tasks happen automatically, when we plan them, when we follow through with them, then we don't have to think it actually about them. Believe it or not, it cuts down the level of thought that actually takes place. Visual cues are another game changer for me. I use timers, I use visual schedules. Again, my color coding is a way for me to stay on track in a very visual manner. I am a visual learner, so having that lets me see, at the end of the day, I physically have to cross off whatever I had on my three priority to-do list. For me, that is a way it just makes me feel good. My colleagues and my coworkers joke with me about this, but I also use highlighting. And I'll talk about that in just a couple minutes. But that highlighting allows me to prioritize and really put my focus where my focus should be, which is not always what we do. That highlighting or those visual cues really allow us to flow smoother because it's placed right there in front of us. And we're having that sensory receptor of our visual cortex taking in what we need to do. And again, it's just that system that takes it back and allows us that reminder. We get overwhelmed. Projects feel overwhelming, deadlines, reports, all the things that we have to do, meeting the little kids' needs every single day can feel overwhelming. We have to step back and take one step, baby step, big step, jump, whatever it may be, at a time. We need to break our bigger goals into smaller, clear, measurable tasks. It goes back to that checking it off. Once we do that, we can see that we are advancing forward. At whatever the pace may be, however slow it may be, we can still see that there is advancement forward. So instead of, saying my goal is to revamp my whole classroom library, what I'm going to start by saying is I'm going to get 10 nonfiction books, level them, and then I'm going to move on. I'm going to get, 10 soft spaces in my classroom, and then I'm going to move on. When we take these big projects and these big things that we want to accomplish and we break them into smaller, clear tasks, we're more apt to meet our goal that we want to meet. Simple but powerful. I know this sounds silly, but prep in advance when we can. So spend 15 minutes at the end of the day. And this is huge for me on Friday. I am very focused on Friday at shutting down my week. So I take about a good chunk of time and I go back, I go through my emails, I clear it out, I start fresh. Whatever I haven't attended to, I leave myself a little time at the end of the week to go ahead and attend to that because it lets me say goodbye last week, hello this week. And it really kind of reframes my priorities to be where they need to be so that I can ensure that I'm focusing on where I need to focus. We want to do the last one, and we say we want to do the last one, but we don't do the last one very well. We are educators, we are super individuals, we are superhumans, and we like to do it all. Here's the thing, we have to give ourselves grace and we have to lean on our colleagues and share resources instead of reinventing the wheel. Education is the one thing that we should be reaching out, beg, borrowing, stealing, sharing, collaborating, all of the things we should be using as tools to make ourselves more efficient and more effective. Collaboration lightens a load, and to be honest, it brings a level of socialization so you do not feel like you're isolated. It brings clarity where there is once chaos. We also want to ensure that we're taking these strategies and we're not just spending time, we're spending time. We're making sure that the time that we have is well spent. And one of the first things we have to do, and one of the most important things that I learned early on as a teacher, but still work on years later, is we have to prioritize what matters. Keep what's important important. Not every task carries the same weight. And when we focus our energies that way, we are going to feel the burnout. What we have to do is we have to ensure that we focus our energy on what directly impacts the most important thing in our world. And I would imagine, audience, we would all say the exact same thing, one of two things, children or students. So we have to ensure that as educators, we are truly spending our time where it matters the most. With that, I want to go back to setting boundaries. Teaching is a work of heart. There is a quote, teaching is a work of heart. And that can be a job that never ends. It's a job that continues to go. We take it home with us. It's there on the weekends. And that's so amazing because it shows our passion for what we do. But boundaries protect our energy. So I'm going to revisit this on every slide because it's very important that we abide by it. When we collaborate, when we delegate and share, delegate can sometimes be a word that has a negative connotation. And what we have to do is we have to ensure we switch it and we make it delegate is essentially collaborate and ask for help and share. The opposite of that is that bi-directional give take. We don't have to reinvent this wheel. We can collaborate with colleagues. We can swap lesson plans. We can share resources. We can share something we found online. Not only does it save our time, but it also builds our community and it builds fresh ideas. And then finally, we have to protect our wellness. With this, there is an absolute element of putting forth what we just talked about. So, scheduling those breaks, making self care part of our non negotiables. It's not selfish, it is survival. When we are well, our students get the very best version of ourselves. And ultimately, that's what we want. Okay, I am going to pivot just a little bit, and I really want to talk about some completely new tools that save you time and energy. So when we look at these, so when we rely on these completely free tools, we save ourselves the time, we save ourselves the energy, and to be honest, we save ourselves the stress in a sense that we can now boost engagement with our classrooms, with our children, with our students, with our families. And that's ultimately what we want. So I broke these down into what I hear educators want. So the first one really kind of focuses on lesson plans. Share My Lesson isn't is it is it it's a treasure chest of free teacher created lessons and activities across grade levels, and it includes early childhood, which is often the differential that we don't have. The strength of this platform is that it's built by educators for educators. So we're not starting from scratch. We may find something there that piques our interest, sparks our creativity, gives us a little inspiration, and then we can go in and take it into our own direction. You need a quick literacy activity, a music center idea, a full thematic unit. You can find it, you can download it, you can adapt it for your classroom, for your children. It saves the hours of planning, and your focus on energy then becomes the engagement, teaching that to students, coming up with something for families. So anytime we can tap into a lesson plan resource that gives us a foundation, a good footing that allows us to then take that creativity, spirit, energies that we have and put it elsewhere. OER Commons is an open educational resource library with thousands of free lessons, activities, and assessments. What I like about this is that it is searchable by age, it is searchable by subject, and it is searchable by standard. So for ECE teachers, this means we can pull high quality content, developmentally appropriate content, NACE aligned content that is aligned to early childhood, early learning goals without reinventing the wheel. Again, we've got that nice starting point that's already aligned to standards, that already has developmentally appropriate practices in there. So we can remix, we can customize, we can accommodate, we can differentiate. But this foundation, this good solid footing gives us the flexibility to plan so that we can, again, focus on engagement, focus on those modifications and those differentiations. The second category you will see in the second block is online ECE literature. As an early childhood teacher, I was constantly searching for resources, constantly searching for children's literature and digital resources and even just picture books that we could put in the hands of our children and in our families. So Unite for Literacy offers free digital picture books. What I love about this is it offers them in multiple languages. Many have read aloud narration. This need read aloud narration is so amazing because the strength lies in the accessibility. So they can explore the book independently, or families who might not be as strong in literacy practices, especially those families who might be learning English alongside of their child, can use these books to strengthen that practice. Teachers can use them during story time also. We don't have to have 20 copies so each child can look through it. The children can, look online and have take it home. Think about that. We can share this at home with our teachers. It's so great. It promotes literacy, equity, and again, it just saves time looking for those age-appropriate, engaging materials. One of my favorites for the longest time since I was a classroom teacher is Storyline Online. And this brings books to life through video read alouds. And guess who reads them? Well-known actors. So imagine your students listening to Oprah. Imagine your students listening to Viola Davis. That animation and that, the prosody in reading, the intonation in their reading just kind of pulls learners in. Great for transitions, great for center rotations, even sending home as a literacy resource for families. It's free, high quality, guys, and it saves us time. We're continually look for ways to increase family engagement, and a tried and true resource for this, you will see, is PBS Kid for Parents. PBS Kids for Parents is packed with printable activities, videos, online activities, and learning activities that families can use at home. What I really like about this site is it continues to be very simple. So it's family friendly, it's research based, it's aligned with learning goals, but families can navigate. It's not difficult to understand where to go. It's very simple in the overall aesthetics of it and the overall website navigation. It's just a great resource that we can put in the homes of our children. If you're doing something with apples in your classroom and you want to send, your families there to explore apple books and then apple recipes and then, the history of apples and then the different kinds of apples and the tastes of all the apples, this is the spot for you. This is absolutely one of my all-time favorite sites here now and in the future. The National Association for the Education of Young Children, or we very lovingly refer to as NAEYC, provides the highest of quality, credible resources for the field of early childhood education. NAEYC for Family page is full of articles. It has guides that you can send home. It has family activities that you can print out. It has online activities. It has tips and resources for parents in family-friendly language to send home. The value here is its credibility. So it is backed by NAEYC so that families can trust where it's coming from. They can trust the research behind the resource. And instead of creating it on your own, you can find very common challenges, resources for very common challenges we face. So if there is an issue with nutrition at school and you really want to send a newsletter home to families, this would be your starting point to look because the resources are there with ready to use links. Let's go into child-friendly applications. We are living in a very digital society, and having the ability to utilize and supplement children's learning with applications is something that I find very advantageous. Starfall is a classic. I used it when I was an early childhood education teacher, and for a reason. It is interactive. It has literacy and math. They're developmentally appropriate. They are so engaging for students. They are very game-like. So our children, our students are learning. They're very aligned to the standards and to developmentally appropriate practices, but at the same time, they feel like they're playing a game. They feel like they're playing. So that's a great space for our children to learn, especially key skills. ABCia is another site that just gives so many free educational games. This one is structured by grade level, which allows us to really kind of target what we're looking to target. For example, if I'm focused on letters or numbers or shapes or phonemes or basic problem solving, those key areas are lined out. So we can click on them and then we can see the different variations in level so that we can absolutely spend less time hunting for what these supplementary activities can do for our children and more time again with what's most important, which is our children. The last one I kept to the side because I really was trying to think about how to quantify it. But to be very transparent, I use it every day and I use it for a lot of different things. Canva for Education is a free tool if you have a education email that allows you to make so many different things from newsletters to handouts to infographics to visuals to presentations to full on interactive websites. Canva allows a templated professional design, and what you can do is select it and customize it in minutes. I do it for observation components for children. So if you had something, you could make it into a book on Canva in a very easy way. It makes it look polished, it makes it look professional in just a real easy and time-saving way, which I am all about. So as we start to wind down our thoughts, as we start to line down our focus areas, I really want you to close your eyes for a minute. And I really want you to just imagine your career. And I'm assuming that you are probably looking into the future. And I want you to do just that, but I want you to do it from a way that's not a sprint. I want you to do it from a way where there is a level of longevity here. And it really is not a product, it really is a process, a beautiful journey, a process that you truly want to preserve, you want to protect, you want to sustain, right? The real question is not if we're going to feel stress or fatigue, because we are. We do every day, and we will in the future. But the kicker and the answer and the solution to this is how we respond, how we revise, how we reflect, how we adapt, and how we build for the long haul. So we're not viewing this as a product. We're not viewing this as a sprint. We're very much so viewing it as a marathon, as a process, as a beautiful journey where we're learning and growing along the way. Research shows us that teacher burnout is real. Teacher burnout is something that we face. And the 2025 State of the American Teacher Survey showed that teachers now report working on average 49 hours per week, which is about 10 more than our contracted hours. And a lot didn't report the additional emotional burdens that they're facing because of the stress or burnout or because of the other things that are going on. What they also found is that about the percentage of which teachers intended to leave the profession dipped from 22 to 16%. And more than half still say they're burned out regularly. So, what does that tell us? Why are we here? Why did you join me today? We're not in this alone. You're not in this alone. I'm not in this alone. We're in this together. And it's not a matter of personal failure. It's a structural reality that many of us face today. Many of us passionate, committed early childhood educators face today. And what we want to do is we want to have tools, we want to have a toolkit that we can burn bright, not out. So, what I want to do is challenge you to take a look at the personalized burnout template, and it will be included in the chat during this presentation that you can download. And by personalizing this, you can create a roadmap that's realistic. It's something that you can reflect on, and it's something that you can align with your own needs. Before today, I want you to take a look on the screen and let's talk through these. I want you to think about your stress points. Identify your stress points. What are two or three tasks that drain your time and energy? How might we change that based on what we know today? How might we use a tool, a free tool, to supplement our lives to help us move in the right direction? How can we set boundaries or stop time or take a wellness break so that it supports our overall stable state, our overall health and wellness? And it really gives us a point to kind of dig our heels in a little bit and say, I'm going to make a change and set that boundary and stick to that boundary. How can you color code or even just prioritize your priorities? How can you factor in and stick to the self-care that you so need and so deserve? How can you see the big picture and be very excited about getting there, but start small and really applaud those steps that take you there? And how can we reflect and adjust? You feel it if it's not right. You feel if it's going awry. How can we make that better? By personalizing all of these tools that we explored, we're able to impact our overall health and wellness. And evidence shows that when we can build a buffer against burnout, can take away some of the heavy, can take away some of the abandonment and isolation and constant pressure, we are really able to be a person who can improve in this environment and reduce the overload and the pressure that we feel, and ultimately build a sustainable career and role for ourselves. So, in closing, I really would like us to think about returning to the heart of why we do this, our why, our purpose. Early childhood education doesn't just teach numbers and letters and all the foundational skills, but it shapes the identity of the youngest learners. It nurtures a love of learning, and it does change lives. Children, families, communities, the world. Our presence, our passion, our care, they're not lines in a job description. They're the heart of what we do every single day. And as we walk forward with intentionality and with the notion of this, with clarity about this, the care that we're going to provide ourselves, we want to grow that toolbox. And we want to ensure that those boundaries are maintained and our energy is sustained. We really want to make sure we're investing in ourselves, because when we do that, the product we're able to give our children, our families, our communities, our world is going to be one that burns bright, not one that burns out. So I want to thank you for being here today. Clearly, this is something that I'm very passionate about. I love what I do, but I also understand the modifications and the changes I need to make when I get in that yucky state. I want you to invest in your own sustainability, and I want you to carry forward your light for the little ones that you impact. Thank you so much for being here. I would ask that you take a few minutes to fill out the feedback after the presentation, as it would mean a great deal for me. Thank you so much.